So welcome everybody. Welcome here today. My name is Rob Doubleday. I'm the Executive Director of the Centre for Science and Policy. I'm very grateful to you all for coming. I'm just going to spend a few minutes right at the start of the day to introduce the Centre for Science and Policy and say a few words about the background to today's conference, and then we will get on with what we're here for. So the Centre for Science and Policy, as I think many of you know, was set up by the University of Cambridge in 2009 with an initial donation from David Harding. Various people at the university, including Frank Kelly, who's in the room, and Martin Rees, recognised the need for a more systematic way of ensuring that academic evidence and expertise made its full contribution to government. And they turned to David Cleaveley, with extensive experience in the business world in the high-tech cluster in Cambridge, to try and bring this about. And David Cleaveley's insight, the founding insight of the Centre for Science and Policy, is that networking is a crucially important part of achieving effective advice and effective relationships between academic expertise and government. So the Centre for Science and Policy was founded both to establish and support better networks between academia and government, and also to understand these networks and understand how this relationship works. The centrepiece of what the Centre does is our Policy Fellowships programme. And we have got, I think, got several policy fellows in the room. But policy fellows are professionals from working in public policy. The majority come from Whitehall, others from the European Commission, or other administrations, and some from industry. They have a 2-year association with the Centre, which is kicked off with an intensive 5 days in the University of Cambridge, where they meet a whole host of academics across the full range of disciplines to address their questions and try and help them in their job as policymakers or working in government. And we're very pleased to say that this week we welcome our 100th policy fellow. So you can see that, that's the scale at which we're operating now. So 100 people coming in from senior levels in government and elsewhere to the university and working with people in the university at Cambridge and elsewhere, really to strengthen that engagement between academic expertise and government. We're also increasingly doing research. And over the last 12 months, we've seen a much greater intensity of research we're carrying out on the relationship between science and government. We have brought in recently £1 million to carry out research on that, and we're partners in a further £10 million worth of research at Cambridge and elsewhere. So that's a little bit about the Centre for Science and Policy. I will also now say a few words about the background to today's conference. Last summer, a very informal meeting of Claire Craig from the Government Office for Science, James Wilsden from University of Sussex, Jill Rutter from the Institute of Government, Jonathan Brecken from the Alliance for Useful Evidence, Simon Burrell from the BIS ScienceWise programme. We met together over a cup of coffee and thought about the changing context for scientific advice in Whitehall, in the context of increasing pressures on budgets, in the context of civil service reform. We thought, well, actually, it's a very interesting time to take stock, think about how the science advisory system works. And that led on to a series of seminars. We had one in November in the Institute for Government. In January, the Alliance for Useful Evidence hosted a seminar in Nesta. There were seminars in Nesta and the House of Lords, run by the ScienceWise and the Alliance for Useful Evidence. And in February, we had a meeting in the University of Sussex. Lots of talk, lots of interesting opinions, bringing together people working in science advice, practitioners, people who comment on, reflect on, think about science advice. And that's led to a collection of essays, which we're very pleased to launch today, which I think probably highlights two themes, and two themes that we hope we'll also address during today. And that is that the job of networking, the job of knowledge brokering, the job of intermediary is a very important part of effective science advice. It's a job that needs to be taken seriously, both as we do it and also as we think about it. And to some extent, today's is celebrating the role of intermediaries. We're all intermediaries in some way, and this is one of the themes we're going to look at today. The second aspect of that is that people working in science advice increasingly recognise that there is a science of science advice, and that practicing what we preach, opportunities like today, allow people working in science advice, people that study and think about science advice from the outside, to come together and reflect on where we are. I won't say any